A Cuppa Joe Nintendo is powered by the You, Me, and Capri Patreon. We want to say thank you to some people, starting with our Diamond executive producers, Slimer Snarf, Lee Navarro, and Jonathan Brown. Also, our Platinum producer, Robbie Bobby Miller. And then to our gold level patrons like James Johnson, Gene K, Skinny Matt, Ashley Nicholson, Aaron Gropper, Trucker Sloth, Argo, Ryan Turford, Egg Shen, and Ray Sony Pony Martinez. Thank you everyone for all of your support.
Hey Sean. So listen, we were kind of right, kind of wrong about the Nintendo Direct.
Got everything we wanted.
You know? Yeah. Oh boy.
Everything's fixed.
I wasn't completely taken aback by it. You know what I mean? Like, I know people were really upset about it, and I wasn't.
This is kind of how I've been feeling about it as well. It's like, I mean, I'm not like offended by it, but I'm also like not jived about it either. So I'm kind of like, it kind of happened. Like, I don't know. The middling is kind of like, is that the worst part?
I guess the problem, or not the problem. I don't want to say the problem. I guess the thing for me though is it's not like a true Nintendo game direct. Like, it's Nintendo games. They're coming to the Nintendo Switch. Right. But it's not like, again, it's not the big direct we're waiting on to happen. And
it's the thing to go, hey, turn on your Switch and download some games maybe now and into the future.
Yes.
That's basically it. Like, there's nothing huge happening. But there's a couple things that like were kind of memorable to me that I actually wanted to ask you about.
Good.
Like, there's the boxing game, which is, but like, are we so old that like you don't put Rocky in it? Like, it's the Creed franchise now, right? Like, the Creed is in the name.
It. Rocky is.
I know, but I didn't realize. Like, I was like, this looks like Rocky. This sounds like Rocky. They're not saying Rocky until like 25 seconds or so into the trailer.
Well, we're into the Creed franchise now,
right?
So it's but it's all the Rocky universe. Like,
of course.
I mean, Rocky's still in the movies. It is the side-scrolling boxing that I grew up on.
Yeah.
There was Rocky on the N64, I believe.
I played that one.
Not the N64, I'm sorry. The GameCube it was on.
Oh, definitely.
And I think it was on like the PS2 as well. I enjoyed it. I liked it. But go back even further, there was Rocky on the ColecoVision.
Oh, wow.
Which my uncle had, and we used to play that all the time. You'd start off and you'd fight like Apollo Creed, then you would fight Clubber Lang. Like, Rocky 4 wasn't even out yet at that point.
Oh, snap.
So it just stopped there. But in the iteration that came out on, the GameCube era, that version, you start off with like Spider Rico, who, those that don't know Rocky, like, he fights him in the very beginning of Rocky 1.
Mm-hmm.
And you fight Spider Rico, and then you get on to like some no-namers that were basically just scrubs throughout, and then you get to Apollo Creed, and then you win the title, and then you go to Clubber Lang, and then you go to Drago, and you work through. You could actually fight Mickey in it. Like, Mickey's a boxer.
Stop! Can you really?
Yes.
He's so old. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, he was tough.
Oh, of course he was. He's just this crafty old smart boxer.
It was good.
Okay, in the trailer, and I haven't seen all the new movies, but it said like Drago and Ivan.
Yes.
Is that his kid? Did he have in the later movies?
In Creed 2, that's the fight. Creed versus Drago's son.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Adonis Creed fights Ivan Drago's son.
Interesting.
And it's built up because, of Drago killed Apollo and all this stuff, and it's such a good movie, dude.
Watch that. Holy cow.
That is a great movie. Great movie. The whole Creed franchise is, honestly, the Creed franchise is really amazing to me.
I'm so far behind.
Oh, it's so good, man. If you watch Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, Creed is a lot like that, but it's following Adonis Creed.
Yeah. Who
is actually not, it's Apollo's son, but it's from an illegitimate marriage.
Right.
So it's not like, he's not raised by Apollo and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's such a good franchise. It's a really good franchise.
This might just do it. Like, this game might just like, hey, wait a second. It's been a while since I checked it.
I'm getting it, man. Day one for me, man. Day one for me.
Was that exclusive to Switch, or was that like, I don't know?
No, I think it's coming everywhere. I thought I saw it was going to everywhere. It'll be on Xbox and PS4.
Almost too bad. Kind of want Switch to have that one.
Well, no, that's good. I mean, listen, it's.
I thought of you instantly though. I was like, yeah, it's a little bit of boxing. Like we haven't really seen anything boxing in a long time.
Yeah, I was hyped for that one. I was hyped for that one. There was a couple other that aren't.
A little TJ combo in there.
Right.
Killer Instinct. Yeah, man.
We don't need TJ combo. What else? What else got you a little?
Dude, like there's nothing like that got me crazy. Like Just Dance was in there. They had like Minecraft DLC, like for
that's
for Minecraft Dungeons. But like, I mean, like that's Game Pass for sure. Like there's that soccer game that I don't really understand, like the anime soccer game.
Yeah,
Puyo Tetris 2 is coming, but that's also coming to Xbox.
But that shocked me that was coming out. Like nobody, But I'm not really. I'll be honest with you. Like
now I have Tetris 99, man.
That's all I need. I don't need Puyo Tetris. Like, it's cool.
Because I had it before. Like, it was one of the best demos ever. Like, one of the games that, like, you try the demo, and it was, like, an instant buy for me. And, yeah, I don't know if I need... Because I never played Puyo. I bought that game for Tetris, so...
So did I. I bought it for Tetris, and then when Tetris 99 came out, I was like, okay, I don't need it. And then I bought the DLC for Tetris 99. I'm like, yeah, I really don't need it now. The one thing that shocked me this week was they put a poster out on their socials.
Yeah.
There is over 80 games between Super Nintendo and NES games.
I know.
That crept up on me.
Me too.
I didn't realize there was that many games.
I kind of want to look at that poster right now.
Well, because I'm sitting there.
I was actually going to troll you a little bit and show you how many Kirby games there are on there, but it wasn't actually too many.
Yeah.
It was like maybe 3, I think.
The thing for me, though, is like I look at that list and I go, I keep going like, oh, there's nothing to play on that thing. Yeah. And then I look at that, I see the 80 games. I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's really a lot of games on that list.
You know what I wish we could do on it if we ran Nintendo? I wish that one of two things. Number one, like, because you log into the thing and it's all of the games, right? And especially now that we kind of realize that there's 80 of them, it's almost too much to go through. Like, I wish I could just show me the ones that I pick. Like, I could pin them kind of to the top or whatever it is. Like, this Mario game, this Donkey Kong game, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or bring some of those games to the front screen, to the home screen.
The one thing
I think that's the biggest thing. Like, honestly, it's the biggest hurdle for me. I have to decide I'm going to go into like one of those virtual console type of things and then go flip through those games. It's too much for me.
It's not. Come on.
It's too much. Why don't you play them?
Because I'm playing Animal Crossing.
I mean, I guess Animal Crossing.
I'm happy right now.
But that's just it. But I feel like the fact that it crept up on you is that, like, it's just one more. It's like a store that you have to go into. Instead of just having, like, if you bought that game virtual console, it would just be right there beside Animal Crossing.
Oh, it's fine, but that's
what I'm saying.
I'm okay with going. It's almost like a folder. I'm okay with doing that because my thing is I would have a boatload of games because I have both the Japanese account and the
North
American one, and I gotta say, like, the Japanese one, dude, there's certain games that's all we want to play. Like, I only want to play Zelda in the Japanese version. I only want to play Metroid in the Japanese version. The sound quality is unmatched.
Wow.
It is so good because they use a disc system, and that was something that came out in Japan only. It was the Famicom disc system, and basically it was floppy disks that you put in.
Yeah,
and it had better music quality on it. But even just the, even if you went to just the Japanese version, they had different systems. Like, that system was built differently because video games were okay in Japan. It was only in the United States that had the crash from Atari.
Right. I see what you mean. Yeah.
So in Japan, video games were loved and adored. So Nintendo was able to go like, hey, we're going to make this a video game console and really ramp it up. Where in the United States, they had to make it as a toy. That's why I had Rod the Robot and all that. It was like a Trojan horse to get the Nintendo system in the houses. So it's a totally different ballgame, compared. But speaking of which, there's a documentary on Netflix called High Score.
I'm hearing about this. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
It is amazing.
Is it?
6
like
episodes.
6 episodes? Yeah.
6 episodes. It starts off with the Atari, goes into the NES, goes into Sega, goes into Squaresoft, goes into the arcade scene with Street Fighter. Like, it's basically the history and shows like 30 to 40 minutes about all these different companies and how they came about, and
each one of those beats is like is an episode. Like,
yes.
Each one that you said, like, Atari is an episode. Street, like, I would love to watch the Street Fighter one, man. That would absolutely bring me back.
Unbelievable. And you forget too that like you talked about Kirby earlier. You forget that. Well, you forget that. Sorry. Nintendo got sued by Universal because of King Kong.
Oh, and Donkey Kong. Yeah.
And the reason why they won was a lawyer named John Kirby, and that the homage and the payment was they made the character.
Really?
Yes, they made the character Kirby because he saved Nintendo by that lawsuit.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Because
what a great story.
What you find out is. He
did you know that before this?
I heard it, but I heard it, but I had forgot about it.
Oh,
the documentary refreshed my memory on it.
Well, the reason I asked, not to test like your knowledge base, but like the reason I ask is because there is like this growing volume of encyclopedic knowledge that is kind of coming to the forefront through like books and everything like that. And it's like in some cases you can kind of go like, well, I've heard these stories before.
Yeah.
But like definitely, like if I'm gonna check this out, it's kind of like, yeah, there's things that you probably didn't even know before.
There's a lot of stuff.
So I definitely didn't know that Kirby story. Yeah. That is awesome.
It's awesome. It's good stuff.
So you can't hate him as much. You can't hate Kirby quite as much.
I have my reasons for hating Kirby. Okay, let's not get into that.
Yeah.
This rumor, this rumor that's come about.
Oh yeah, Switch 2?
Oh my god, dude. Okay, so
it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense, dude.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Because how do you compete against the big dogs? You have well, first off, okay. You have to upgrade. You have to upgrade.
Yeah.
Because there is no way these third parties can get these games down onto the current Switch. So they have to upgrade. And I've always been on the mindset to go as Nvidia puts out a new chipset, Nintendo will move to the last chipset. Because that's what they did with the first one. The first Switch, they didn't take, what was it, the Tegra chip. They took another chip or something like that. Like, it
was like Tegra 2, I think, actually.
Yeah, and they didn't upgrade to
X2.
They didn't go to the top one. They went to the one before it. And I think that's going to be the thing. As Nvidia puts out the chip, they're going to go right to the one behind it. This is not, it is the thing I want to get people, because, the internet is so fickle.
Yeah.
This is not a Switch 2. This is a Switch with more, boost to it.
It's like a Series X or a 1X. It's like what Xbox has been doing a little bit.
It's like an Xbox One X with the S, or when they did the mid grade up.
Yep.
Or like a PlayStation Pro.
Right, so you're saying that there's no exclusives that are going to be like, there's nothing that you're going to only be able to play on this upcoming one.
I think some of the third parties will only be able to.
Yeah, that's why I think it's a little bit more like Series X rather than the 1X, right? Like the 1X versus the 1 and the 1S, like same games no matter what. They just some would look better, some would like with the Series X. There's games that like third parties are like, no, it's just on this one, like the Medium or a couple of others. They're just like. It's just going to be there. I think that's really interesting.
I think the Nintendo games will go all across the board.
I think so too.
I think the indie games will go all across the board.
And this is going to be the craziest thing to see how smooth it goes. Or I don't know. I feel like there's just a lot more forgiveness in Nintendo land. There always has been. There's been critical kind of comments about it. Everything that Nintendo does, of course. But for this, it's like I don't know if it's going to be quite as much under the microscope, because you'll have your Mario game, you'll have your Zelda game, you'll have like those kind of like, which Microsoft obviously doesn't have.
Yeah.
So it'll be a little smoother for that reason, I think.
Well, the thing is that Nintendo, they'll get the pass because people will understand they have to do this.
Right.
They literally have to. If they do not do this, they're dead in the waters.
On the third party front,
yeah, on the third party, and
then all you're left with is like mobile ports or something like that.
But you look at a year like now, the third parties are the only thing that's saving them. Third parties and third parties and Wii U ports is what's saving them, and Animal Crossing. But I look at it as they have to do something. We've said that from the start. Like, how do you? We knew these new systems were coming. Like, how do you combat that? I mean, we talked about it before. I'm with the mindset of like treat it like a cell phone. Put out a brand new Switch every year, and I will buy a brand new Switch. I will upgrade to it every year. I would. Now I know that's not feasible for a lot of people, and it doesn't make a sense for a lot of people. And I think Nintendo looks at it in that mindset.
But it's not. That's the thing about those annual or even biannual, like those twice every other 2 years. Like, it's not for everybody to buy every single one. It's that whenever you're ready, there's a new thing for you to buy. That's the magic about cell phones. Is like whenever your contract is up, there's a new thing for you.
Yeah.
That like your contract is up, you're not looking like, well, that thing's been out for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Or if you're in console and like, well, like if you had a similar type of contract or for whatever reason, like I'm of the age where people coming into like, I've got a job now, I can buy this thing. What am I buying? Like, it's a bit of a, I don't know, like, do you want to be buying a thing that's 4 or 5 years old?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be buying something that's 6 or 7 months old or brand new? And I think that's where like people don't like to hear that. I think that's where we will end up. And like you'll end up with a Switch every other year.
Yeah, and I will. And I would literally buy it every other year because I bought the new 3DS. Like, I bought all that stuff. Like, I want the latest and the greatest tech. To me, it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge upgrade for me to jump on board. You know, like, it's got to be, like, enough. Like, don't get me wrong, I didn't buy the new...
bought the new 3DS.
Yeah, I bought the new 3DS. I didn't buy the new Switch just because it had a better battery. I waited. Mm-hmm. Now, I did buy the Animal Crossing one that came with the new battery. But, like, a battery's not enough for me to, like, go upgrade. But, like, if you're telling me it's a new chipset, I'm in. Like,
see, and that's the thing that, like, I think is probably going to hold Nintendo back. So everybody can kind of, like, not freak out so much. Because they've really got to figure out, like, the compatibility thing. That's what, like, Apple nailed right out of the gate. Was they have these, all the apps can work across a ton of different, like, iterations of the hardware. Different power levels, all this different stuff. I think that's going to be trickier. And I think Microsoft is running into that right now as well, like even with Halo. I think that's this idea. It's like, well, it works on phones. Why can't it work? Or even works on PC. Why can't it work on console? It's like, this is a new idea. And I think it's going to be pretty tricky to figure it out. And I just don't, honestly, I don't know if Nintendo is the one to figure that out. Do you know what I mean?
They're not.
Right?
Because they are a licensed company. They don't own the hardware.
Just like taking over everything. Like that would be it.
Yeah.
If you had like a Switch every other year, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult, I think, to have that many different iterations of the same console and have the games kind of work all like how do you then change the behavior for people to go, well, if your Switch is 5 years old, you're out of there. Which actually doesn't sound too bad, like to be honest with you.
No,
like when I say like 5 years is not terrible.
Listen, you play a game like Animal Crossing and you say to yourself, like, I don't need an upgrade to the Switch. Dude, Animal Crossing tests the limits of the Switch. And people will be like, what are you talking about? You go to an island that is super crazy decorated. And there is pop-in every couple of steps you take. Because they have so many items on the ground that the system can't register it.
Yeah, it's a memory thing.
It's a memory thing
for sure.
So, you know, if you go to them crazy Japanese towns, or there's even like there's some people that I've gone to that are in the United States that they go crazy wild with the building, and they have like all this decorating going on, and you're literally walking through, and it's like boom, this pops up, and you're like, what the heck was that? Like, where'd that come from? You know, so.
Do you think there's argument from people that like that they shouldn't have a more powerful Switch at this point? Like, is there anybody who's saying that?
I don't think there is. I think everybody's so hyped for it. I think people are so hyped for it. You know, granted, the Animal Crossing crowd might not, because I think a lot of those people bought a Switch.
They just got it.
Yeah, for this. But there's people like me, you, Donnie Reese. You know, a lot of us that would be like,
Donnie for sure. Yeah,
I'm going to upgrade. You know
well,
what I mean?
the hardware itself, it excites me, and there's a lot of different things. I think even Garrett Bland on Nintendo Shack was talking about all the different Bluetooth stuff that they could have, Bluetooth audio. Like, there's a lot of things we've been yammering on about for years and years now. But I think more important than just the new hardware, because I look at Sony and I look at Xbox, they released like the Pro and the One X, and it's like there wasn't really that thing to go, this is what you need it for. There were a number of different things that made it worth it for me, but it wasn't like the traditional style, like hammer in your face, here's what you need to buy with the new console. But with Nintendo, like, I don't know if this is me getting my expectations way out of whack, but who the hell cares? We're in Nintendo land.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild 2. Like, can they repeat the exact same cycle that they did with the first one? And I kind of expect them to do that. Like, I kind of expect them to have something crazy, whether it's Breath of the Wild 2 or something else, but something to go like, this is what you need this for, which hopefully will be a little bit better and a little different, because like the precedent is actually that they don't do that. They did Majora's Mask with the new 3DS, and that basically was there like a Resident Evil game or something like that you could use the C-stick or something like that. And that was basically it. So it's like they haven't really done that in the past, but for some reason I just feel like they've really rewritten how to launch hardware with the Switch, and I just kind of hope that they do it over again.
So my whole feeling has been, at least not my whole feeling the whole time, but like at least the past month or two, my feeling has been Nintendo had stuff to show. Regardless of what the leaks are saying and what people are saying in the media, I feel like Nintendo had more to show this year. And I believe that they are using COVID as an excuse to just hold stuff back. And my feeling is, now that we're starting to see the tea leaves and see things starting to come together, I really think that they do a repeat of 2017 and they go, here's the new hardware, here's Breath of the Wild 2, and now every single month for the rest of the year, you're going to have a brand new game once a month, boom, 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 and people would lose their minds.
So are you saying that, like, this year was going to be the year that we've got no matter what, but they're saying, like, well, it's COVID, that's why. But, like, if COVID didn't happen, it would have just been kind of quiet and people would have been like, what the hell?
I know you have, like, listen, I've heard Donnie saying, like, that he feels like this was just going to be a lame duck year. And granted, I feel like I don't think that it would have been a massive year, but I think there was definitely something. You can't tell me that this is all they had. You cannot tell me that they only had Xenoblade, they only had Animal Crossing, they only had Paper Mario, and they only had Pikmin 3. That cannot be the only thing they had.
Well, they have a holiday thing, but I don't see why that wouldn't be. That's it. Like, because even when you list them off, like there's a bunch of stuff. It's just like when you're talking about it week to week, it definitely does feel like. But there's also a lot of third party stuff that people have been playing.
I'm not
but for me,
that.
like it's not for me.
But I'm talking Nintendo stuff.
Yeah, I think this is exactly the year that they had planned.
I don't think so. I can't in my heart believe that they had nothing at all planned for this year. Like,
what else do you do? I think they probably maybe, like, if you look back a couple years ago and they said what's going to come out in 2020, probably had Metroid in there. They probably had Bayonetta in there. They probably had those in there. So maybe.
But that's what I'm saying. You have Bayonetta. That's a possibility, right? That probably should have been. You might have had. I don't believe that you had. But
I think the reason I bring those up is I think there's problems outside of COVID that have delayed those games.
Well,
I think like when they first started on Metroid, they're like, yeah, that'll land in 2020 and that'll be it. Yeah. But I think like they get a year and a half into that thing and go like, nope, start over.
Yeah. So no, there's definitely Metroid's definitely got problems of its own. But I also think that like there's other third party or first party franchises. Like, dude, Mario Kart 9.
Yeah.
Splatoon 3.
But it kept selling. This is the thing. I feel very strongly about this with Mario Kart 9 that like they're just basically waiting until like the sales kind of just do this a little bit, and then they go, okay, we'll refresh on Mario Kart 8. I mean, but like people are still buying it, man. Like they've got really no reason other than to please the other people who bought. Like for people like us, who've been playing Mario Kart 8 since the Wii U. Like it'll take a lot to really convince me to go.
People are still buying it, but that's because they have nothing else. If they had 9, they wouldn't buy it. You know, it's a weird dynamic where they're at with that one.
That's super weird. In which case, like, why wouldn't they? I just wish they would update it to keep everybody else engaged. Like, do one or the other.
But not only that, Sean. Like Smash, Smash was supposed to have another 5 fighters. Yeah, they're not. They talked about the ARMS character. They're dead on that. They're not talking about nothing on that. I just feel like even if it was like Splatoon 3 is another big one that I felt like. Okay, it only took you 2 years to do a Splatoon 2. Like, shooters aren't that much. And the way that they slow roll Splatoon, that's easily could have done a Splatoon 3 by now. Yeah. So I just think that, like, there was something. I don't know what it was. Mario Rabbids 2, I think that was possibly in the cards. You know, because Ubisoft turns franchises around like that. So
that's true. If they wanted to do that, they probably could. You're right about that.
Yeah, like, there's stuff that, like... And I know that's not necessarily like first party stuff, but I feel like that's so closely tied to Nintendo and first party that it's an extended. Like I would say that's like almost like a second party, even though it's a third party. I don't know.
So part of me wonders, and you and I talked about this a lot too. Like I was actually just looking into our 3DS collection because I'm like, man, there's a lot of great games in here. I remember having a lot of fun with that. And when we left the Wii U and we left the 3DS and now we're back on the Switch, it's like, okay, great. All these studios who were split between these two things are now all in on Switch. And I'm like, I don't know if I need to do. Maybe I do. Just kind of look at who was working on 3DS stuff, who was working on Wii U stuff, and like what have they done on Switch and where are they at now? Because like. That would maybe answer this question of what else could they be doing? Like, who else do they have that maybe hasn't dumped something onto Switch right now? because like the first couple of years have been nothing but craziness. Like every month had a thing.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe that does make sense. Maybe that's it.
I mean, in reality, we don't have a 2D Mario.
Right.
Like, so
you got Mario Maker.
That's not 2D. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, that's not 2D because that's not a Mario
like a new
game.
like
a new 2D Mario game.
But do you think that's what they got instead? Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like they built that instead of, I don't know what team builds that.
No, I think that whatever team built the first one probably just did some upgrades because that was like a half step. To me, that was like Mario Maker 1.2, not really Mario Maker 2, in my opinion. They added a few things to it to massage it and make it look a particular
I'm just saying,
way.
who would typically make like a new Super Mario Brothers versus who makes?
I think the 3DS
Super Mario Maker.
I think whoever's working on that's the way I look at it. I look at it like there was a Wii U team and a 3DS team.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, totally.
The Wii U team did obviously, in my opinion, did Odyssey. You know, not only that, like you're telling me that there's no Odyssey 2 in the chamber, like that doesn't make sense to me. You know, like, and then
you think that's where they go? Like they'll do a Galaxy type of thing, like because they don't typically do that a whole lot.
No, but I think that Odyssey was so short that I think that they definitely would have had more stuff in the chamber for that. I feel like Odyssey just didn't have enough to it. It felt like it was a little on the short end for a 3D Mario game.
Well, and just the way that like you could become any enemy. Like it seems like that would take up a lot of that extra. Instead of having this big long game, it's like, well, there's so many different variables within the game, and that mechanic itself is kind of like you can't just one and done that mechanic.
No,
I feel like you want to do it again.
Yeah, I think so too. It would make sense to me to go like, okay, we have a couple more worlds that we had. Let's throw them in and
well, that game needed to come out in the time that it did too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that was absolutely critical for it.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly like, and I'm not saying that Donnie's wrong in any stretch of the imagination. I just in my heart feel like this is not the entirety of the year. I feel like something is being held back, and I don't know what that is. And I'm not going to act like I know what it is. I just feel like to me it doesn't.
For what reason would it be held back?
Because of now I feel like it's being held back because of COVID. I feel like they're filling the chambers up. Kind of like it almost feels to me like at the end of the Wii U era, they went on this drought. Yeah. And they went on the drought because they were building a chamber. They were filling their gun chamber up to come out blazing into 2017.
See, and that's what I feel too. So I feel like, and that's on purpose. That's not a like, oh, some like COVID took us out of what our normal strategy was going to be. I feel like this was very thought out. This was pre-thought, premeditated. That they were going to have this, like, Animal Crossing is out in the spring, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And they had a couple other things that kind of like, and I do think that Pikmin was supposed to come out earlier. Yeah. I think Emily Rogers was saying that as well. So we were supposed to be a little bit better at this time. Yes. We should have had maybe not quite so many gaps. And maybe we should know, like, what is the appropriate time to announce the Mario collection? I feel like it's right after you hear about, or I don't know, like right after you hear about the price and release date of the PS5 and Xbox Series X, because it's like that's the counter to it.
And we've talked about that before. Like I feel like it's a stare down. It's a gun draw between all three companies, and no one is speaking first. And it's almost like I as crazy as it sounds, I feel like what PlayStation and what Xbox has done so far is kind of like a pump fade. You know what I mean? Like, or pump.
But
where they're or a double pump in football, where like they fake the throw and then they throw. It's almost like, let's announce this is coming, and hopefully the other guys will go, okay, let's go. Yeah, and then when they put the thing out, it's really not that much. So this way, they show their cards before, you know what I mean? So it's
so long that like I feel like people are starting to question, like, do I even need this? Like it's so long that instead of being people like having their anticipation take themselves away, instead they're going like, man, maybe I just don't need to do this. It's like it's allowed me a lot of time to go, instead of just like throwing down my pre-order and being locked in. I'm like, I just don't know about this stuff. And so for Nintendo, it's kind of the same, but I'm already locked in on their hardware. Like, it's not quite the same for them because they're not promising me new hardware. No. But if this rumor is a little bit true, then I kind of want to know it's true and tell me when I can buy it. But that probably wouldn't be until, like, honestly,
September.
Probably wouldn't be till January.
I'd go September.
Next year? Like, why would they? But wouldn't that hurt holiday stuff for this year? Like, they gotta have some way to tide you over.
No, I don't think.
If you said like, don't buy a Switch this summer, like this holiday.
No, because I think people would still buy a Switch. I don't think they would care. I think there's people that just wouldn't care. But here's the thing.
Maybe.
I feel like if you hit them in September, because, dude, if you put it in January, you're really going to upset people. At least if you do it in September, you give people the option.
Then you discount the current Switch and maybe Switch Lite. I'm not sure. It depends on. That's the other thing. Like, do they do a Switch Pro and a Switch Lite Pro, or is this something that there's just on like it's not?
No, they just
handheld.
No, they just do the Switch.
Just the main Switch.
The Switch,
whatever.
The Switch, whatever. You know, new Switch, regular, new Super Switch, whatever they do.
Do you think that they have to discount it though? Because I feel like that's something that I've talked about too, is that they can beat PlayStation 5 and Xbox One or Xbox Series X by price. Like, even if they were just to keep it the same, they'll be cheaper. But they can really go, why would you spend $600 or whatever these things are going to be when if they were to take the discount from, what's the Switch like, $199 in the States?
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. So if they were bring regular Switch
I don't
down.
think Nintendo cares. I think Nintendo's selling so many of them, I just don't think they care.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do you walk this line from trying to tell people ahead of time that a new Switch is coming, but you should still want to buy a Switch like this holiday. That's a tough one to do, man. It's a tough timeline. Do you know what I mean?
I think that,
and maybe that's why they're not putting too much out on Switch right now.
I think
is to keep you from getting disappointed.
I think the problem is there's not going to be a lot of holiday shopping this year as it is.
I disagree. I think video games are as big as ever, man.
No. I'm not saying video games. I'm talking overall. I think that with the trajectory of the world, if they don't start opening the world up soon, we're starting to see businesses go by the wayside.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. So if they don't start to open things back up, I think that people are going to be less likely to spend. Now, I don't know, and I don't know how it is up there compared to down here. I just don't see it. I don't see any sign of like of video game spending going down at all. Not even a little bit. You're talking games. You're not talking consoles. Like, I think
all of it, just gaming.
I just think it's a difference, man. I don't know. For me.
Well, so to that point, that's why I think the price of a Switch is going to play so much into what happens this holiday. I think it's going to be a really tough sell for Xbox and PlayStation to go, like, spend all this money on this thing, and Nintendo go, yeah, but all of our games are here. You know all of them. We've got our Mario game, and it's $199. Like, doesn't that seem like such a winner?
It seems, but Sean, it's Nintendo.
So they won't discount.
I don't think they'll discount. It's just how I feel. I could be wrong, but now look, they might do like a bundle situation. Hey, we'll throw in Smash and the console for $250 or for $300 just for a holiday sale, a Black Friday sale. But I don't see them really discounting the system because.
So then you just don't think that Nintendo even cares to sell Switches this holiday? They could say there's a new one coming, there's better, brighter, shinier coming.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep our current offering the exact same price, which to me says that they don't care about how many Switch units they sell this holiday.
I think obviously they have to appease the investors. But they're blowing them out anyway.
Right.
You can't even get them in the United States. I'm trying to buy one for my mom. I can't find them anywhere. So
that's crazy.
It's in a situation where they're not even here. So do they care?
But we're not at that stage yet. That's what I'm trying to say is like they haven't announced another Switch.
Yeah. No.
Like where you're in a world where you go like, okay, on March 2nd, another Switch is coming out. But by the way, please buy a Switch this holiday. That makes no sense to me.
I just feel like Nintendo is so quirky and weird.
That's true.
And
that's because it doesn't make any sense to me. That's exactly what's going to happen.
I've been a Nintendo fan for a very long time. And listen, we did a show called If We Ran Nintendo because we felt like we're going to tell Nintendo the proper way to do stuff.
Yeah.
And nothing we ever said was right. Nothing we ever did was right. Everything that made sense.
I wanted a Splatfest that we could create on our own, and it happened too late. I didn't care about Splatoon anymore.
But you get the point. The point is like how many times do we say, like we were the ones who were like, hey, they got to announce the Switch at E3, and this is how they present it, and this was it, and they were like, silence.
Yeah.
And then they do a commercial in September, and then in January they do the presentation, and then March it launches.
That's
and I feel like they might do something similar. That's just my feeling.
Yeah. Good point.
I just feel like that worked so well for them.
Oh, I agree with the reveal. You're right. Yeah.
I just think that it works so well for them. They might just try to recapture lightning in a bottle and see what happens. And
so, is it Link or is it Zelda or is it Mario to launch it?
Oh, it's Zelda.
You think so?
Breath of the Wild too, without no doubt. No doubt. I can't see them not riding that coattail. and riding that pony all the way till the legs fall off.
It's time.
It's what they got. So
that'd be good.
All right, man. I gotta go.
All right, good.
Have a good day.
All right.
All right.
Go then. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to A Cuppa Joe Nintendo, a production of the You, Me, and Capri Patreon. If you like the show, you can support them at patreon.com, You, Me, Capri. A Cuppa Joe Nintendo is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and all of your other podcast services. Be sure to follow Bobby at Nintendo Gurus on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. For everything that Sean does on the internet, follow him on Twitter, at Sean Capri. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. Also, twitch.tv Sean Capri. That is all. Peace out, Preston.